Uh, yeah, we've got an investment portfolio as my mother's heirs and everything with Edward Jones, and I managed to score a meeting with them and our advisor Elia. I'm not going to tell you anything more than that after the next. That's it. I don't feel like sharing more with the internet. I don't really trust them, fully, or you guys. I'm sorry. That's just you know I've been reading the Warren Buffett way, anyways. So basically, I've been getting a list of questions for him. I want a copy of our holdings, in full, so that we can, um, essentially, so that I can ask, ChatGPT or an AI daily, what our returns are every day of the week. At least every day of the week, the weekdays, not the weekends. And what type of bonds did we buy back when, the last time we saw them, we bought bonds. I don't know if we bought corporate bonds or, government bonds, probably treasury bonds. What about Walmart? What about getting exposure to Walmart and PepsiCo? What about Frito Lay, Dollar General? What's your sentiments there? Consumer staples, do you have any suggestions there? Basically hedging for recession. We're not really entirely sure that one's coming, but, just in case, we want to have something that is going to make money in the event of a recession. Oh, so one of the things is that we're thinking about taking our profits from the tech industry, at least with respect to Intel stock, and because we pretty famously bought in when it was very low. OpenAI is spending way more than they take in and is expected to become, to not really have anything more to spend by 2027. So we're concerned that there may be bubble-like conditions growing, although it may only be a multi-cycle thing where there's a correction of 20 to 30%, and then, things don't die. They just kind of, what I mean? They meter on and everything in a battered state, but they eventually return to growth. But do you really want to be there when the things crash 30%? Do you want to have as much exposure to it? I'd like to set Edward Jones app up on my phone. Basically, should we take profits from Intel or just let it ride? If so, any suggestions of dividend stocks to buy as a result of them? We'd like to gain exposure to Berkshire Hathaway Class B shares, and we are looking at Ulker.is or Yisdale's holding, a subsidiary of Yiddiz Holdings for Godiva, or ticker IST UK ULKER, noting that Warren Buffett's one of his best investments was in, See's Candy and everything. I think, though, in these days, if you were going to give a girl a box of chocolates to, on a date or something, as the way that Warren Buffett talked about it, it'll go over much better giving them a box of Godiva versus C's. I've realized that this can be bought at the OTC, the OTC market, and its dividend yields are really quite nice and everything. So the dividend yield is between 6.36%. So that's almost crazy and everything. And this is sold on the OTC markets, and hopefully we can gain exposure that way. I don't know how if they can get us access to that, but that's really what we want to do, and everything. And so these are not listed on the National Securities Exchange. Over the counter trading is, pink sheet trading, which is done directly between two parties without the supervision of an exchange. It's contrasted with exchange trading, which occurs via exchanges. A stock exchange has the benefit of it facilitating liquidity, providing transparency, and maintaining the current market price. In an OTC trade, the price is not necessarily publicly disclosed. OTC trading as well as exchange trading occurs when with commodities, financial instruments, including stocks and derivatives of such products. Products traded in the traditional stock exchanges or on other regulated bourse platforms must be well standardized. The OC, so basically this is a way of getting exposure to it via the OTC market, and everything. I don't know exactly how you would do that. Open a brokerage account with a firm that supports them, such as Fidelity, Charles Schwab, or TD Ameritrade. And I don't know. See, I'm doing research here, Edward Jones. Oh, yeah. They often restrict or discourage trading in highly liquid, speculative, or illiquid penny stocks. As the firm focused on long-term buy and hold investing, they typically prioritize via the Edward Jones stock-focused list companies with strong balance sheets rather than high-risk OTC offerings. Well, that's good. It's good to know, because I'm probably gonna buy into this to gain some, over the OTC market to buy into, the OTC markets, UELKY, because they attractive dividend there really of 6.39% and everything, and it helps our portfolio out. So I guess at the end of this month I'll close out, to what I owe to pay off the hard drives that I bought in my headphones, and then move money into our Edward Jones account to buy that stuff, and everything, and directly we have to do that. I mean, this particular stock is not, yeah. It's its holdings are not really. It's not really that great. So look at this in terms of its holdings, and So, but this is just insane. This, that Yuko is a Turkish food company traded on OTC pink market under UELKY at approximately 27 USD. It's a major biscuit confectionery manufacturer with roughly 6% dividend yield, although it carries risk from the Turkish lira volatility and inflation. The current price as of April 26 is $27.90 or 27. So the 52-week range is between 25 and 15 and 29.18. Its market cap is nearly $1 billion. Basically 996 million. Its PE ratio, its price to earnings ratio is 4.16 to 8.42, which is crazy good. And its dividend yield is between 6.14 and 16.6, which fits well with our portfolio. It essentially it helps offset a lot of other losses that would have occurred elsewhere in the portfolio because of that damn dividend yield, and the price to earnings ratio there is just crazy. It's crushing other investments, and so she's sitting there. My own mother is like very emotional about it because they closed their stores down, and she feels sad about it. But I keep trying to tell her like what we're seeing. I've done research on this particular stock, and I'm finding out that it's new strategies at Godiva are all working out swimmingly well, and this is the only way to gain exposure to Yildiz holdings and everything in their stocks. So and they happen to own Godiva. So as I explored, See's Candy is like semi-premium. Godiva is full-on premium. If you're gonna ask a girl out on a date, you really want to sell over well. On a first date, you're gonna get by Godiva, man. Anyways, so yeah, I'm meeting with our advisors in a couple of days, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have, I'm gonna coordinate with Ilya to, essentially invest in, Godiva, but, the company that owns it.